All right, so good morning, everyone. Welcome to our lecture 11. And today, before I move ahead, or let us understand what is interceptor. Now, when you make an API call uh, in Angular, it may happen like assume a scenario. Scenario is that you may have to attach authentication token to every API call which you make. Or maybe you have to intercept that, okay, if you are making an API call to endpoint which has login in it, do not attach authentication token. However, if API call which you are making has some request, does not have login in the endpoint, then attach your authentication token, or for that matter, not only authentication token, any header which you want to attach. Now you have two choices. One is that you go to every API calls and then you put these logics. That can pretty much done, but challenge with that approach is that if something is changes in future, you got to go to every API call, every places where you are making an API call, and then change code. So that is not advisable. Second is that, let's say that you need to handle some HTTP error which is coming while making an API call. Again, you can handle that for each individual API calls. You can go and write code to handle that with each individual API calls. That could be done, but you may want to handle it globally. Third is, which you may not come across, but let us say that somewhere you're like you are making an API call to get some data, and you want that this data should be like you just keep clicking on the button, and you want that, okay, even if user clicks on the button, do not make an API call for next 2 minutes or next 3 minutes, cache data locally, something like that. So anything, any request goes out of your application and any response comes to your application, you can intercept that, and you can intercept that using a concept called interceptor in Angular. Interceptors are nothing but normal service with certain syntax which you need to follow. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a service called, let's say, loader interceptor. So here I have added a service called loader interceptor, and let me see, and then let's run this. So here I'm running exactly same application which I was working yesterday, because that has your API calls and everything. So here you see that my application is running exactly the same application which we did yesterday. All right. So this is application which is making an API call. Now let me go ahead and open code for you. So here is my code. All right, and let me close everything here. Okay, so I know some of you don't like dark themes, so let me make it light theme. Okay, and here you see that I have one loader interceptor service. This service got added. I'm calling it loader interceptor service. Now to make it as an interceptor, what I need to do, I need to follow certain syntax. So what I'm going to do is to create an interceptor. What you need to do, you need to implement HTTP interceptor. So here we can say implements HTTP interceptor. Can anyone tell me what was the syntax to create global error handler? What class you used to implement? When we created global error handler, which class you implemented? Anyone remember that? Please come again. What was that? Error handler. Okay, good. And who answered this? Good. Okay, so here you have HTTP interceptor, and to make it global error handler, you implemented error handler, right? Pretty much this you implemented. Here to make an interceptor, you will intercept, you will implement HTTP, you will implement interceptor. All right. Then this interceptor has a function called intercept. And this intercept function, you have to override this intercept function that has one parameter, a request of type HTTP request, and then another parameter of type next. And it returns you observable of HTTP event of type any. So it's chaining that, it returns you HTTP event, and you can subscribe to that. All right, so this is your interceptor. Now here, let's say that I go and say return next. So I can return next dot handle and request. So this is what I return from here. So I created this interceptor, and let's say that I say I need to see that what all request I am making. So I can say request dot. Let's say that whether I'm passing any body or not. All right. So here I'm printing the body. Okay, then I'll print console.log, let's say URL. So here I can say request dot URL. All right. So let's see that what URL and what we are printing that. So we are just printing that. So here you created this loader interceptor service. By default, this HTTP interceptor is the interceptor, but since you created your own, you got to register it. Now, whoever I'll ask going to answer this question. Okay. So I'm going to ask this question to, let us say, Saurabh Tripathi. Saurabh, now what next step I need to do such that whenever HTTP interceptor class is required, Angular use loader interceptor service class instead of HTTP interceptor class. So what should I do? Saurabh Tripathi.
To inject in constructor.
To inject at constructor, which constructor? There could be 100 of components. Are you going to inject it in at 100 places? Okay, let me ask this question to, so I'm not putting anyone on the spot, but I just want to understand how class is doing. Let me ask this question to Saurabh Banerjee. Saurabh, what should I do to do such that now whenever HTTP interceptor class is in action, instead of that, Angular should use loader interceptor service?
In the service call, the place where we are calling the API. From there, we need to use this HTTP interceptor.
Not the correct answer. Let me ask this question to maybe Vinit Kumar. Can you answer this, Vinit? Vinit, if you are speaking on the mute. Okay, let me ask this question to Omveer.
Yeah, that inside app.module, you can put the provider and then use the use class.
Very good. Thank you. So what I have to do, I need to go here, exactly what we did in dependency.
Yeah, put it in provider, then we use the use class.
So provide is HTTP. Provide is what I need to provide? Tell me.
Provide an HTTP interceptor and then use class, whatever the custom class we are using. and huge class that in our application, that service, yeah, global.
Loader class, sir. Loader
Sorry, yeah.
interceptor.
Right, and let's say multi-true means it could be injected more than one times. All right, and now even if you don't pass it, it should work. Okay, so Saurabh, and everyone, I asked you this you have been doing. You have spent like more than 10 hours to this concept, right? So wherever interceptor, use my interceptor. That's what I'm instructing Angular now. All right, so my application is already running. So let's go ahead and see whether we are able to get expected output or not. So here we are. Okay, home. I press function F12. Everyone able to see my browser?
Yes.
Yeah. So here I am, and now if I go to books, you see it tells you that there is no body, null, because we are making a get operation. So get operation does not have body, and we are making, and the request URL which we are hitting is localhost 990 API/books. All right. So here you are able to read that. Now, if I go to add book here, see, we have not made any API call, so nothing is being printed here. But here, if I enter a book, let's say Angular masterclass book, price 500, available, yes. And when I click on add, you see that add is a post operation, and in that post operation we are sending a request body. So now request body should have some data, it should not be null. So when I click on this, it tells you that the body it has passed is ID, price, title, in stock, and then it is hitting again URL, and then this true is from somewhere else. And then when we navigated to this page, again we made an API call, which is HTTP GET operation, and that is like body not null, and then again the URL. Even you can go ahead and print whether you are making a post call or put call and all. Now what message I'm trying to give you is at one place you are writing this code and it is intercepting every request and response which you are sending. And if you have to do something on top of it, you can very easily do that. For example, I can go to my code here and say in loader interceptor that if request.url includes login, then return next dot handle request, else here we can say, so here what we are saying that if it is a login, you don't need to attach, let us say, a token. If it is not a login URL, then probably you have to attach a token. So what I'm going to do here, I will say, okay, so here now I can say const r equal to request dot clone. Keep in mind that you got to clone the request, and in that you can you can do. So for example, if you want to make, like, everywhere you are using HTTP and you want to make for a certain endpoint, you want to make it as a HTTPS operation, right? So you can like, instead of HTTP, you want to make it HTTPS, you can say request.url.replace, and here we can say replace HTTP with HTTPS. Right, you may have a requirement that certain endpoints, like your API is working on microservices or something. Now they are saying that, hey, certain endpoint has HTTPS, certain endpoint doesn't have HTTPS. Now how you are going to handle that in Angular? So here we check that, okay, if request include this particular endpoint, then include like replace that with HTTPS and all that. So here I replace the URL, then I can go and say headers. Headers, and then you can put here headers like request dot headers dot set, and here you can set header, for example, content type is application JSON and dot set, let's say token is let's see that whether it works or not. Or token, I have just put some number here, 9999, and then from here, instead of RE key, we return R, right? Or call it as a new request, and here you will say new request. So what would happen that in our case, we do not have any login, but anyway, we are putting it here, return next handle dot login. So what I'm going to do, just for the purpose of demo, I'll go to my book service dot ts, and here, let's say that I will have a function called login. And this function is doing nothing. It will just make a login, and then so we are reading this from here, and let's say this is dot get. All right, and observable any, and as soon as I come to home component, I want to make a login. So here on the home component dot ts, we would say private book service as book service. All right, and then here on ng on init, this dot book service dot login dot subscribe. Of course, it would throw us error because we don't have any login. We don't have any login endpoint. So here we're saying console book service login subscribe data, or what I'm going to do, I'll say let observer equal to, remember we created observer, so we'll say observer equal to, and what was the thing next, console.log data, then error console.log error and complete console.log complete, and then here we can say login subscription is of type subscription, and then here we can say this dot login subscription equal to this, and subscribe this dot observer. Perfect. And then here on the on init, we'll say on destroy, ng on destroy, if this dot login service is not equal to undefined, then this dot login service dot unsubscribe. All right, so here we are okay, so we written that. Of course, we do not have any login endpoint, so our application will return us some error. But here we'll say login endpoint hitting. All right, and I have put this request replace, but I'll change that because again, that's not HTTPS. So let's see that how it works. We may not get some data from API, but the purpose to show you that how you can set URL and headers, and then we can navigate. We can check that. All right. So here we are, Google Chrome, and so first it says that login 404 not found. That is there. So we are on the home and we got one error. But here you see that it tells you that login endpoint hidden. And this is coming from the interceptor. So we are able to intercept which URL we are hitting and then able to perform the thing. If I go to now network and clean it, and if I click on books, I got error. This books module got downloaded, but if I look at the books here and go to the header, here you see that this auth token header has been added. Can you see this? Which we are trying to add. If I go to add book again, and if I click to this add by putting some value and put on add, again it is giving me error, but the message what I'm trying to give you that the token which we wanted to add is being added. So what you do actually, you make a login call and you first hit the login, like depending on how your requirement is, and then the login would return you authentication token. You save that authentication token in local storage, and here you read it before making any call, and then you attach to that. So this is how you intercept outgoing request and work with that. All right, so here I am, intercept. Next dot handle REQ, and now our things should work correctly. We are here in the books, we are in the add books. Okay, now what I'm going to do, so here what I have done, I have just commented that. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to book.service.ts, and this has an add book. So we have this constant header, we are putting it here, right? Let's not put it here. Let's get rid of from here. We will apply headers in the interceptor, and then in the interceptor here we are just like without any if and else, we are just saying request new URL, get rid of this, and content type is application/JSON. So content type is application/JSON. Let it be authentication token, doesn't matter. So here we are setting this. We are setting that content type which we are setting here for each call in the ad book. We commented that, and let's see that whether it works perfectly or not. So here we are in the output. Okay, so all right, so there is some problem. Okay, we don't have login. All right, then books are working fine. Let's go to the network, and if you go to books, and if look at the headers, request headers, I guess we put some application JSON. Yeah, that's going here, I guess, except application JSON. Let's see whether this ad book works or not. So into title, Angular, available, yes. Let me clean this and let me click on add. All right, it works, and 200 okay, post operation, content length, request headers, accept language, content type we are setting here application JSON. All right, and has it not taken our, oh sorry, I'm sorry, I did one like we got to change that, right? So here in the code we are doing that, but here you know that like I need to return the new request, not the old request. So we'll say new request, and let's see that how it behaves. Okay, so here I changed this to new request, and now let me go to the output. All right, so here it is hitting books and it is having content type application JSON. Yeah, so it's taking this authentication token and this taking is application JSON right here. So we are able to save that. Let's go to add books, Angular 200 and yes, and let's hit this again, add. All right, so we are able to attach that header to all outgoing requests. So this is how you intercept outgoing request. If you have any question, I'm very happy to answer that.
I have one question, Anja. Say in specific condition, we don't want one single interceptor everywhere. Say for secured one, you want to pass token, but non-secured one, you don't want to pass token. So you are going to create two interceptor. Then if we manage that from app module.ts, how we will do that?
So good question. So what happens that you can create as many interceptor as you want.
That's why my answer was to that. When we are calling service, we are going to use the interceptor
So
instead of app module.
No, that is not that approach. Here you keep attaching the interceptor, as many interceptor as you want, okay? But what would happen that if there is a business logic which is like duplicating, so what happens like HTTP interceptor, load interceptor service, here let us say you are making HTTPS, so that would get implemented. But after that, again, you have passed provide HTTP interceptor huge class Dhananjay interceptor service. And that's why I'm making it multi-true, that we can provide more than one class for this interceptor. So what would happen that if in that interceptor, again, you have made that HTTPS to HTTP, then what would happen that it would go HTTP. So you can pass as many interceptor as you want. But if you are overwriting a business logic in one of the interceptor, the last one would be taken care of, or would be in the effect. Does I answer, like, does it answer your question?
Yeah, so still one part is not clear.
No, give me a business use case.
Yeah, say we have a login page and a product page, okay?
Just a
and
minute.
login page, yeah.
Just a minute. One login page and one product.
Yeah, product page. Okay. For login page, we are using an interceptor called login interceptor service. And product page, we are using generic interceptor service. The difference between this, for login page, we will be using token and all those stuffs, which will not be using here. Okay, so now we want to use these interceptors. How we will do that? If we
No, so you do not create, that's the whole point, right? You do not create interceptor specific and bound to a page or component. Interceptor deals with every HTTP request goes out of your application, regardless which component is making that request, and every response which comes to your application, regardless from where, like, in which component or directive or service you are going to use that response. Okay, so interceptor is sitting on the top. It does not care which component is making the call. Even you cannot read that in the interceptor right here. There's no way to find out from which component this, like, the API call is being made. So only thing is that you do not, like, when you think of a solution of a problem, you don't think like, okay, we'll have different interceptor for different pages or functionalities. Not like that. What you do is that, like, as I shown you here, is that very first you may have multiple interceptors, but that could be for different reasons. For example, I could have a global error handler interceptor. I could have a caching interceptor. I could have a global loader interceptor, which I'll show you in a bit. But those are interceptor performing different functionalities instead of like they are one-to-one relationship with a page. So what you need to do, if you need to you need to intercept, like, okay, if I'm making a call to login endpoint, then I should do something. If I'm not making a call to login endpoint, then I should do something else. And you will do that the way I have done it here. which I shown you. Like you will intercept the endpoint which you are hitting, and on basis of that, you will have to run your business logic. Now, does it answer your question?
Yeah. Yep. But I would be interested to see how you're going to do that, like multiple interceptor for global error 1 and for other ones. We'll see that. Thank you.
So that is not rocket science. Like there's nothing in it. I'll create another interceptor. I'll just pass it here in app module.ts. And as I told you that this works like a CSS download file. Like let us say if I have one, like let's say that I have one more here provider, HTTP interceptor, and let us say ABC service. Now, if in loader interceptor service, I'm attaching a token, and in ABC service, I'm de-attaching a token. Then de-attachment of token is in the action. But let us say in loader interceptor service, I'm attaching a token, and in ABC service, I am making HTTP as HTTPS. Then both of them are in the action.
Okay, got it. Got it.
So, so it's as simple as that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Next question, please.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. Can we to answer Saurav's question only? Can we use factory over here?
Who? Tell me your name.
Shrey.
Can we use factory over here?
Yeah. So that
you people are not getting my point. Interceptor is not for that purpose. Interceptor does not care what components you have. Interceptor does not care. You can go and use it. It's not about can we do this. The whole point in lecture 11 is should we do it?
okay.
Right? It's plain JavaScript. We can do a lot of things here to achieve whatever is coming to our mind, but that's not the purpose, right?
Okay.
I can go and write certain JavaScript here, and I can override everything, right? Agree, I can override everything, whatever I'm teaching you. I'll just go here and make this app root as a table. That's not the point. You need to understand that why a thing is given and what is the purpose of that. The purpose of interceptor is just to intercept HTTP request and HTTP response.
Okay.
And HTTP request and HTTP response are actually bound to the endpoint, like which endpoint you are hitting. It is not bound to, interceptor does not care who is making the call, because that code you have already written and unit tested. Like, hey, I am someone and I should do this, I should do that. Interceptor only does care that where you are hitting that, and before whoever is making the call will get response. Do you want to do certain changes or certain thing in that response? So it is sitting on the gate of your application. And it does not care once the box of sweets is inside home, which room is getting that sweets. That's not job of interceptor. Okay, but it may check, okay, sweets are valid or not. It may check, okay, when a request is going, then which restaurant that request should go. All right, so you should not have an interceptor on the basis of your components or on the basis of your business functionality. Yes, you could have interceptor or logic inside interceptor on the basis of that. If I am hitting login endpoint, I should do this. Or as I told you, nowadays when I do consulting, a lot of requirement comes that APIs are like API people are getting converted to microservices, and they are getting converted to microservices means some of their functionalities are on HTTP, some of their functionalities are on HTTPS. So to make an API call, I need to identify which endpoint I'm making. And then if the whole application is on HTTPS, then remove HTTPS from the URL, and those kind of requirement. I hope I'm making clear to all of you here.
Yes, sir.
So is it like we can say this is a violation of solid principle interceptor, because
so
all the responsibilities we are putting on one interceptor, right?
Yeah, very good question. So when you write DI container in let us say C# and .NET Core, do you write separate DI container for separate classes, or do you call it a violation of solid principle over there?
TI container is same for everything.
So this interceptor is not your business logic.
Say in .NET, we are creating a service repository. And when service repository is interacting with one service, for login service, I have different repository. For a product service, I have different repository. But here, finally, everything is going through one host.
That's the whole purpose. That's what interceptor is. You, as I told you, you can have multiple interceptor for multiple purposes. I never said that you cannot.
Oh, right. So you can do, say you are calling 5 microservices and each microservices can have their own interceptors.
No, it doesn't. Look it like this way. Is that
Okay.
my microservices needs HTTPS or HTTP? On basis of that, I will decide whether I'm going to create interceptor separate or not. So I may have one interceptor with one responsibility. If you are so much in love with solid principle and do not want to violate solid principle, then I can have one requirement, one responsibility with my interceptor that hey, only make HTTP and only make HTTPS. That could be one interceptor, one responsibility. Then I can have one interceptor for attach token or don't attach token. That could be one interceptor, one responsibility. Then I can have third interceptor, which can say that, okay, cache the response or do not cache the response. Then I can have fourth interceptor, which can say that, okay, load a dynamic loader or don't load dynamic loader. So you can have interceptor on single responsibility. But what I'm trying to tell you, interceptor, like creating new interceptors should not depend on whether login page is going to call it or whether product page is going to call it or whether we are going to hit login endpoint or we are going to hit product endpoint. No, it stays in between. And you got to find the requirement between these two. Because tomorrow it may happen that right now, let us say you have 10 microservices. Tomorrow now you will have 20 microservices. Now you will not come and create 10 extra interceptor now for extra 10 microservices, right? It would, because then it's a strongly coupled application. So the whole purpose of interceptor is to intercept your request and intercept your response. Now you may think of that, okay, when should I create interceptor? Like in which scenarios I may have to create an interceptor. So you may have to create interceptor in various scenarios, such as like if you need to cache response. Now, whether that response is coming from microservice A or whether that response is coming from microservice N, there should be one interceptor for that. You are not going to create an interceptor for like handling response of microservice A, handling response of microservice B, handling response of microservice C, and at the same time handling requests from component A, handling requests from component B, handling requests from component C. No, if you need to cache a response, there's one interceptor. If you want to follow solid principle, one interceptor, one responsibility, and that will handle all the caching of response, regardless who is making the request and who is sending the response. Of course, in that you can put your logic that, okay, if I am hitting endpoint product, I should not cache it. If I'm hitting endpoint order, I should cache it. So that logic you can write inside the response. Second scenario, when you can create an interceptor, is that, as we just shown, add a request header such as authorization or any custom header for ongoing requests. So we just added application content type, and we added some token header. Then you can have interceptor to handle HTTP response error. If some error is coming from the response, you can have different interceptor for that. Having said that, again, you are not going to create separate interceptor that if error is coming from product, then one interceptor. If error is coming from order, then one interceptor. No, there is only one interceptor which will handle error if I need to follow solid principle. Otherwise, if I was you, if I'll put everything in the same interceptor. But then manipulating the URL, that could be the another scenario which we have done. HTTP to HTTPS, HTTPS to HTTP. Then faking the API. Sometimes your API is not ready and you want to like your real API is not ready, but you want to reroute it to some test API endpoint. So pretty much you can very much just replace the URL with your test API endpoint URL. So faking the API can be one purpose of interceptor. Second is that last is like, of course, authentication of every ongoing request. Then creating global loaders and all that. So is it making sense, everyone?
Yeah. Now I understood. Thanks. It's part of technology stack, not for business stack.
Okay. Shrey, is it clear now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just one another question, sir. So we are intercepting request. So over here we can intercept response as well.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll show you in a bit. Okay, next question, please.
Hi, this is Manish here.
Yeah, Manish.
Should we use interceptor for the caching?
Not advisable, but people use it.
Okay, so what could be the best way for the caching at a
If
centralized
you
place?
have to do response caching, Interceptor is the only way to do that. Question is that should you cache or not?
Okay.
Given high-speed internet everywhere, given the dynamicity of data everywhere,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
and if you cache, how much data will cache? Because whatever you will cache will eventually be inside an object, which you will create, and that you'll have to see like how much data you can put in there. But if you have to cache, Interceptor is the only way to cache.
Okay. And can we interpret or simulate the root guard with interceptor?
Root bar, what is root bar?
Root guard.
Route guard, okay.
Yeah.
Can we simulate route? See, understand that, Manish, take a step back and understand that, okay? Route guard is a fancy word for Angular service. Interceptor is a fancy word for Angular service. Agree? At the end of the day, both route guard and interceptor are service. Agree? So far, so good. Now, both have certain syntaxes. On basis of that, Angular does certain tasks with them. Step 2 is clear?
Yeah.
Now, if you follow certain syntax, then you can, and if you pass that route guard service to the router, it does something for you. If you follow certain syntax, and if you pass it to the, if you replace it with the HTTP interceptor, it does something for you. So these two are three verticals. Now, what route guard does? In route guard, you either you read your local storage or your session storage. You see whether you have a token or not. If there's a token, you see whether that token is valid or not. If that token is valid, then you allow people to open that route. Otherwise, you navigate them to log in, right?
Yeah.
Right. So this code, what are the things you are doing in that code? Reading the token. Can I do that code in Interceptor? Yes or no? From local storage. Yes. Right. If you are doing server-side running, then maybe that may cause some issue. But let us assume here that, okay, if I am doing Interceptor, local storage reading, I can do that. Can I check whether that token is valid or not? By making an API call. I can do an API call Interceptor as well, right?
Yes.
And I can write my logic, but the point is then it will be for every request which you make. That operation would happen for every request which you will make, because Interceptor sits on every request and response from your application. What route guard does, once that job is done, when you are inside a route, it does not do those operations unless until you don't go from one route to another route. So that's the reason they have created two separate things for that purpose. Theoretically, you can very much like write those code, but practically should not do that. Because what route guard does, like when you navigate from one route to another route in Angular, it is responsibility of Angular to make sure that it executes that route guard code. And if the route guard returns true, then only it allows you to go to that particular route. If it does not allow, if it returns false, it does not allow you to go to that particular route, right? So you do not write that code. You just write business logic in route guard and that job is done. But here in Interceptor, then probably you'll have to take care of this code as well. Also, route guard has certain lifecycle hooks, which Interceptor does not have. Do you remember what are the lifecycle hooks with route guard? activated, deactivated, and those.
Yeah,
type.
activate the account. Yeah, yes.
Okay, good question. Next question, please.
So, like one more thing in this, if we talk about the oath guard, authentication guard, should we do
Who is
someone
asking this question? Shrey.
Manish?
Okay, yeah, Manish. Yeah, if we write auth guard.
Yeah, suppose someone has the have some permission to access 2 modules, and some other person who is admin have the access to access all the modules. So that should be done from the authentication guard or from the interceptor.
No, from the authentication guard.
Okay.
Understand that the purpose of interceptor is very simple. Okay, to intercept every outgoing request and every incoming response. And so, like, if something is going out and I want to intercept and do something on top of that, I should do that interceptor. If something is coming in the application from the API, I want to do something on top of that, I'll do in the interceptor. Apart from that, related to auth guard and all, that should go where it belongs to, which is auth guard. Okay, you may have multiple auth guards and you can apply to that.
Okay, so interceptor is only for the input output from the
Of
application,
HTTP
but
request.
internally, yeah. Okay, got it.
Okay, next question, please.
Can one interceptor inherit another one interceptor?
What is that?
Can one interceptor inherit another interceptor? Can we do multiple leveling there?
I guess it should. I mean, since both are class, you can. I have never done that, but again, my
Purpose will be a base interceptor which will add your API product and token maybe, and other interceptor inheriting the base interceptor will add maybe page agents from which page the API call is happening.
Saurabh, I just explained to that. You don't have to inherit for that. You go and register another interceptor here. I told you, right? Like here you can go. First interceptor is, let us say, adding authentication token. Second interceptor is, let us say, adding like whatever is your requirement. It would keep adding. So you can create multiple interceptors and do not have to make them inherit with each other. It's like not complete object-oriented thing. All the interceptors, if you want that, okay, a class, a service should be seen as interceptor from the Angular, then you got to inherit HTTP interceptor from HTTP interceptor. So let's say that I have this load interceptor service, then I can have one more interceptor I can create separately. So here, let's say that I'm setting content type and authentication token. In that interceptor, I can do something else, and I can register them right here one by one. But yes, this sequence does matter. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, next question, please. Okay, so if you don't have any question, let me ask this question to maybe let me ask this question to Aman. Aman, if you need to explain interceptor, how do you explain it? Aman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you let us say you need to explain interceptor, what is the purpose of interceptor? Why we should use interceptor? How do you explain that?
Like, sir, if we are calling API in our application and we want to change header or something in all API calls, then we will use interceptor.
Yes, so that's very good point. So you need to remember, like, if I'm making any HTTP request, like API request, and if I need to intercept that request and do something such as adding token, changing the URL scheme, or those kind of thing, I'll use interceptor. If I'm getting an API response and I need to intercept that for the caching purpose or for error handling purpose, I'll use interceptor. Okay, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right. So Shrey, how would you explain interceptor?
In technical
Let us say,
terms,
let us say I'm your student and you need to explain it. Like assume that I do not know anything in Angular. Like I'm a new to Angular. How do you explain interceptor?
let's say every day when the work from office situation is a normal situation, we are going into the office. So before entering into the office, everyone needs to tap their ID cards on the gates, so that only after that the entry is available. So interceptor is such like that, that before, if you register that interceptor, then after every for the every API call, it is going for that interceptor and does the logic that we have written inside interceptor.
Yes. So it's like a gate. Very good example. It's like a gate, right? Sitting on the sitting up
On the entry. Yeah.
on my application, and every request and response it intercepts, and whatever code we have written, it will do accordingly. Okay. So everyone clear? Himanshi, is it clear to you?
Yes, yes.
Nagendra, is it clear to you? Nidhi, is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Saurabh Tripathi, is it clear to you?
Yes, sir. I
Saurabh,
have one question.
yes. Please go ahead and ask.
Yes. So suppose we are making API calls and interceptor is to just intercept the request. Means so in API calls we are getting so many data. So we want just the particular data. Suppose there is a book library, so we just want there will be so many books, but we just want the book which starts from the name A, or the book which starts from the particular writer. So can we fetch in that way? Can we use that interceptor over there?
I would like Nidhi to answer that question. Should we use Nidhi interceptor for that purpose?
So I didn't understand question.
Question is that let us say you have to put filtering, like your API has 100 of books and you may want to fetch only book which starts with Angular, right, Saurabh Tripathi?
Yes.
So should we use interceptor for that, Nidhi, for that purpose?
No, sir.
Should we use Manish Sharma interceptor for that purpose?
No.
Should we use Praveen Singh interceptor for that purpose?
No, sir, we can directly in request only we can filter that data.
So Saurabh, understand the purpose of interceptor is to intercept that, not the data. Like, of course, it intercepts the data when it comes to error or something, but that is something very much a specific business use case for one of the component, maybe where you are displaying books, right? Interceptor deals with the whole application, not with one use case. So that logic you will not write in interceptor. That logic you write in your book service.
Okay.
Okay. Any like a specific business requirement would not go into interceptor. That is like specific to that component and their corresponding services and directives and all that. Is it getting clear, Saurabh Tripathi?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, Saurabh Banerjee, you were asking something.
Oh, I was not actually. Yeah. I was thinking other part. Is it possible to limit the port that we'll use for any HTTP communication from interceptor? Say you want our service to communicate over some specific ports over firewall. Can you do that in interceptor, or is it too much ask?
Yeah, Interceptor, like Interceptor is part of Angular, and Angular runs in your browser. It doesn't have access to anything else other than your local storage. So if you need to like let your firewall or something, Angular or anything inside Angular will not able to do that.
Even this HTTP interceptor cannot be used for TCP calls.
No, Angular does not understand like anything, understand that anything which runs in browser, whether it's an Angular application or React application or JavaScript application, anything which runs inside browser does not understand any other protocol than HTTP protocol or WebSocket. So TCP and MSMQ. Otherwise, if Angular and browser would have understood MSMQ protocols and all, we had no requirement to write API, and my Angular would have directly communicated to SQL Server, right?
Okay.
So so it only understands HTTP and WebSockets.
Okay. Third question, for streaming kind of application, say you are reading Kafka messages somewhere from your application, is it possible to use Interceptor in those use cases, or it should not be? Because there's also HTTP call, right, from Kafka or Event Hub. If you receive a bunch of messages, is it fair to use Interceptor in those cases?
Okay, let me rephrase this question for the whole class, and then I answer that. So everyone, there are two types of communication Angular application can do that. One is this normal HTTP REST API. So where you make a HTTP request, you get a HTTP response. HTTP is a stateless protocol, means you make a request and you forget that, and like you make a request and you get a response, and the connection is gone between you and server. Then make you next request, you make a new connection, and server does not remember it. Okay. Then there's something called, let us say that if you are creating an application such as a score or share market type of application where your user is looking at a screen and you have to push a score like each second. You have to push this stock market update each second. You would not expect your user to click on a button to see refresh a score or get updated score. Nowadays, if you ask your user to click, they will go to some different website. They will not watch cricket on your website, right? So for scenarios like that, where you need to push data from the server to browser, server has to know in which browser server has to push data. Agree? And for that, server has to create a connection between server and browser. Now, browser could be running Angular application or browser could be running React application. That doesn't matter. Now, to create that connection over HTTP protocol, you have something called WebSocket. Now, WebSocket is implemented differently in different server-side language. For example, Node.js has socket.io, .NET World has Signal R, and GraphQL has a type called subscription. So HTTP REST does not provide you any push kind of data. It has all the stateless get, post, put, delete. If you use GraphQL, they have a type called, they have three types like mutation and data and subscription. So subscription is something which creates a socket between the client and the server. So that's a different kind of protocol on top of HTTP protocol, but that is also a HTTP call from your application. So any HTTP call from your application could be intercepted inside a class where you are implementing this HTTP interceptor. Okay, does it answer your question, Saurabh Banerjee?
Yeah, thanks. I think yes. Okay, thank you. But it will be interesting to implement something like that when I have some time.
Yeah, so
I think I'm too far from that, but good to know that is possible.
So if you
is there any specific library you would use for Kafka interaction?
Again, Angular would not understand Kafka, right? You will have to. At first, I'm not an expert of Kafka, so my answer could be wrong. But Angular only understands anything which can be talked through HTTP protocol.
Right.
Okay. So it runs in browser. But for WebSocket, if you want, if you go to my GitHub and repository, so here I have a repository if that interests you. So
Yeah, I think I saw that post in LinkedIn, the WebSocket one from you.
yeah, so there is a Node.js. So this is your server side, like how you create a WebSocket API on the server.
Yeah.
So it has this Express.js and everything, which you can take from here. So here you see I'm using Express socket.io, right?
Right.
So this is what, and each second I'm sending some data I might have done for some training or something. So here I starting a timer and I keep pushing data, right? And so this is your server side. And then if you go here, yeah, IG grid data, live data with WebSocket. And here, I guess it is old, but it should give you some reference point, like how you can. So here I have Jira interfaces called Express Socket on event and all. This should give you some reference point where you can
Right.
get that. Okay.
Yeah, and we can use Interceptor also in these conditions. Okay, good.
Try using that and see what.
Yeah.
Let me see, some people are asking. Nidhi is asking if we have a pass and extra value in header for a particular API, then what should I do? The value in header before you are creating coin the service. Yes. Yeah, no, Manish. I guess Manish, what I will do again, if you have to pass an extra value in header for a particular API, means a particular endpoint, right, Nidhi? I will
Yes, sir.
Manish answer is right, correct. But if I have to take the decision, I'll put that here, like I'll check that if request.url includes that extra API, whatever is your API, right? I can do like this. I can find that whether we are hitting that endpoint, and here I'll add that in the interceptor itself. Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay.
All right. So so let's move to, if you have any question, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, let's move to next topic. Okay, so you saw that how you can intercept request. Let's say that how you can intercept response and handle error. All right, there's one question. You have to add a value in header before you are calling column. If you require to have 10, 20 conditions, was separated to have numerous effects. Yes, that's true. Like, but if I mean, you will have to take decision. You can put at both places. Yeah, now let's say that we need to handle the response. Okay, so what I'm going to do is you are seeing my Visual Studio Code. You are able to see my Visual Studio Code, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so here what I'm going to do, I'm going to say that, okay, so this is my new clone and request handle this, right? Now I can say, so this is observable, so I can pipe this and I can put any operators and anything which I want. So here, let us say I am saying retry to. Retry to means if first time I'm making an API call and due to some reason that is failing, I'm saying here retry once again. So that's what this retry to. Okay, like again a retry, then I'll say catch error. And so here you are handling the error there. So here I'll say catch error, and error is HTTP response, response error. HTTP
error response.
Yes, HTTP error response. Okay. And here we'll say return through error, and then let's say error. What is causing error, catch error, return, or it, oh, URL return. HTTP response. What is that? Okay. And then from here we can say catch error. Oh, okay, it has to pass a function. Yes. All right, so here we can say, like, if let's say error dot status is equal to whatever status you want to handle. So 400 is not found, right? Then I can say console.log new request dot URL not found, for example. All right. So let us see that how it works. So here we are saying that, hey, retry twice and catch the error. If 400, then console.log not found. Whatever URL I was sending has not found. All right. So now let's go to our output here. $4,200 function F12. Go to console and I load it here. You see that URL, I should get that console.log. I'm not getting that. Load interceptor, body null, EP. Destroying error, catch error. Return next dot handle, new request dot pipe, retry to catch error. Error handler. Maybe we are just returning that. Let's say that. Tap. Console.log. Share.
So that status code is 400, but we are getting 404.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, so here we see that we got this, right? Login not found. So we are able to intercept error, and if you want to do something, if you don't, here you can log it back and everything. So in this way, now everywhere, let's say that if I'm making a call to any API, and if does not exist, it will give me error. So for example, here instead of login, I say something, and it should able to catch that I'm here, and it tells you that this is not found or anything. So in this way you can handle errors. So when you are working with HTTP when you are working with HTTP, what you need to do that you should definitely handle error for each call here, which we are handling here. So we are handling here with each call. Then we are handling error. We are like trying to print that error right here in the error. That is step 2. And step 3 in the interceptor for a special type of status code. If you need to do something else, let's say that if this error, like let us say that if that does not work, you need to make, let us say, next call with some different endpoint. Then you can check here, you can again clone the request, change the URL, make an API call, or something like that you can do. So this is how you actually handle error for the status here in the interceptor. You'll have a lot of if for each status, for each error status. Okay. Any question here?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
My question is not regarding this, but regarding interceptor.
Yes.
let's say we have multiple interceptors are there. Now over here on line number 29, we are returning the next dot handle request. Okay.
Yes.
Now how it call the next interceptor, because we are returning next dot handle new request.
I guess how it calls, I'm not very sure, but what I know that if you pass multiple interceptor here, in the sequence Angular will take care of that.
Okay. So before return, it automatically call another and manages internally.
I guess so. Like how internally it does, I don't know, but yeah.
Actually, what this next dot handle means?
That's the syntax. Like next dot handle means.
Yeah, it's very confusing. They sometimes write next. I don't understand where the next is coming in the picture.
This return, this is the parameter name which I'm passing. You can say ABC.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
So intercept takes two parameter, one request and one next means.
Yeah,
next.
no, understood. Yeah, it's parameters. Okay. Somewhere else I've seen this next. I was confused too. I think in observable or somewhere.
Yeah. So when you create an observable and to emit next value, you use dot next. So that is entirely different, and here it is name of the variable.
Right. So
Oh,
there it is meaningful because next value.
There is a reason
So
for
there it is a
defining the
keyword.
next.
So there it is a keyword. You cannot change it. And here it is not a keyword, it's just the name.
Correct.
They have taken that.
Correct.
There is a reason
Here
to
also you might have
specify
seen
the
this
next, right?
next. So this next is a keyword here. You see my Visual Studio code, right?
Yeah. Observer. Yeah. Next is a keyword here.
Yeah, these three are keyword. But this data, it could be anything, response or anything.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, Praveen here.
Yeah, Praveen.
So when we are assigning that multiple interceptors, right? So the interceptor are executing, all the interceptor are executing in the order they are defined in the providers array, right?
That's what I think, yeah.
Yes. So due to that only they specify that if multiple is there, then what next intercept will be executed.
Yes. Multi-equal to true.
Right. So that's only they specify, right? That what will be the next intercept. If nothing is there, then the request will send to the server.
Yes. Okay, so now let me create a global loader. That how you can create a global loader. When I say global loader means like you have seen that wait signal, like wait like that wait, like okay, fetching data and those kind of message if you have to give. Now when you make an API call, your API may take time to bring data or perform an operation. Now you can show this wait message to your user in two ways. One is that you can have that information for each API, like for each data you are fetching. What I mean by that is that I'll go to let's say in the books. Able to see my Visual Studio code, everyone?
Yes,
yeah. So let's say that if I go to these books and here I have this div class row table, and here I can have one more, let's say just div. I should have ng template, but just let it be div. And here I can say star ng if and is loading. And here I can say h2 data is loading. And then and here we can say star ng if is loading. All right, and then we can go here and in the TS we can say is loading equal to by default true. And once data is here, then we can say this dot is loading is equal to false. All right, so this is what we are doing. This dot is loading is equal to false. And now if we go and run application. So we are on the home, we go to books. You see that for a fraction of a second, you saw that is data is loading that message. I can go to book service.ts here, and let's say that I go to, you have this book service.ts, and here where I'm fetching all get books, probably I can say delay of 1000 millisecond. All right, so I'm just delaying to show you that output. So here I am in Google Chrome, and if I now go to home and I come to books, you see data is loading. You got that message, right? Books. And then you get that data. If you don't have, then what would happen if you do not have that? If you so if you don't have that, then what would happen? It would look something like this. So here, let's say that in the book component.ts, I have is loading false. And now if I look at the output, right? So I'm here. If I go to books, you see that you are seeing that header of the table, and then data is coming. So this is the one way you can do that. You can achieve that for each. You can achieve that everywhere you are making the call, and that's as simple as that. How I done that. So any question in that implementation?
So normally for service calls, if you want to show a loaded image, you will use Interceptor then.
Right now, I'm not using Interceptor. I just shown you what is the normal way to do that, doing that. Right now, I have not done anything in Interceptor, right? I just like here in the component, I have a is loading true, and I'm checking that, okay, if is loading is true, then show this div. If it is false, then only show the table. And here, when I'm getting the data, I'm just making it false. Otherwise, it is true. Now, this is the way you should. So right now, nothing with Interceptor. This is the way you should work. That is fine. Now, challenge is that like you may have to implement it for everywhere you are using the data. If you wish, you can do that. Other is that, let us say here, instead of this H2 data is loading, you are displaying some image, like, you know, that weight GIF or something. Now what happens is that you can display that weight GIF here, but like if you're doing that at 100 of components, 100 of places, tomorrow if you need to change something like that GIF image, the path of the image or something, you got to go and change at every places. All right, so this is also a good approach. People use it. But if you need to wait whenever there's, like, you want that your applications should wait whenever there is a API call pending, such that you do not have API racing condition and all that, you write that global loader as an interceptor. It's pretty simple. What I would say that I'll check that, okay, if I'm making an API call, if an API call is in progress, I would hold that response. So for that, what I'm going to do is in the loader interceptor service, let me create one more interceptor. Let's see whether that works or not. Okay, so able to see my terminal, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so here I'll say nggs, and let's say, what was the name of that global interceptor? I'll say global loader interceptor. So I added a service called global loader interceptor. Then I'll say nggs global loader service. I added a service, two services, one interceptor, one service, and then I'll say nggs nggc global interceptor component, global interceptor component. Okay, so I created these three things. One is a component, one service, and one interceptor. All right, now let's come back to the code. And in the code, I have service here. So I'll So here I have this global interceptor service. First, we'll implement this global interceptor service. This is global interceptor service or service.ts. Let me rename it to global interceptor global loader service.ts. Okay, and I had one component as well called global loader, global interceptor. That is okay. All right, so here I have this global loader service.ts, and here I'll write certain code. Okay, able to see my Visual Studio Code, everyone? You able to see Visual Studio Code? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to say private loader is of type behavior subject, and it will return Boolean. Okay, and let's say by default it is false. Okay, so I'm creating here I'm creating a loader, and what I'm saying that okay, like it's a private, and then we are making it a behavior subject as Boolean, and then we'll instantiate that in the constructor. So what I'm going to do, just give me a moment. All right, so here I'm saying private loader dollar equal to behavior subject. And then in the constructor here, we can say this dot loader dollar equal to new behavior subject Boolean, and by default value is false. I hope no questions so far. It's pretty simple. You have already done this code many times. Then we'll create a function called isLoading. Okay, whether we are loading that or not. And then we'll create a function called next loading. So we are creating two functions. All right, so public is loading, public next loading, and this is loading will return observable of Boolean, and here is loading we would say return this dot loader dollar. So it will just return whatever value is there, and next loading is also going to here it will take a parameter Boolean, and then it will return nothing. And here we'll say in the next loading this dot loader dollar dot next, and whatever is the parameter will pass that. So it's pretty simple. You have seen this code already many a times, that we have a behavior subject, then we have a constructor, and then in the constructor we are just like initializing that with the false, and then in is loading will return me this behavior subject, and next loading whenever we call it will pass true or false depending on that. Okay, so any question in this class? Any question on that class?
No, sir.
All right, so if you don't have any question, then what I'm going to do now, we'll write the loader interceptor. So for the loader interceptor, just give me a moment. Okay, so this is their global loaders. Now go to your loader interceptor.ts, and here to make it interceptor, what we need to do, implements HTTP interceptor, and then it has intercept, right? So So this is here now in this intercept, we will write code. And what we'll do, we'll say, first in the constructor, we'll say private load service is equal to global, what is the name? Global loader service, right?
Loader service.
Yeah, let me get rid of this and let me do it. Okay, so here I am passing that load service equal to global loader service. All right. So injected that, and then here in the intercept, what we are going to do. So if we are here in the intercept, means we are loading something, right? So this dot load service dot next loading is true, right? Like if we are in the intercept function, means a HTTP call is in the action. Agree? And here we'll say return next dot handle, and inside that next dot handle, and you pass this request, and then you pipe this, and inside the pipe you would say so finalize is the operator which gets, anyone knows what finalize does? Read it. It's an operator. What it does, please read it. So it will be called when either your observable has completed or whether it's got error. At the last, when your observable terminates, this finalize operator gets called. So we need to make sure that the HTTP request which has gone has been terminated. So here, that's the reason I'm using finalize. And in the finalize here, in the finalize, we can say this dot load service dot next loading is equal to false, right? So what happens that when we are coming to interceptor, we are saying that next loading true. When we are when we get whether error or anything, we say finalize this dot load service dot next loading is false. And then once this is done, interceptor is done, and your service is done. Now let's go to, we have a component created here called global interceptor component. And in this component, we will write that, just give a moment. So so what I'm going to do here is constructor private loader service as loader interceptor service. This is loader interceptor service. Go to definition. No. We don't want that. We want to intercept. This is something else. We don't want that. It should be some names are global loader service. So we'll go to global here in the component which we have created, and then we'll say inject this global loader service. Global loader service, okay, and then go to the HTML, and here you can have a zip file or you can have anything which you want. Let's go ahead on the internet and download a zip file. All right, so here we are in the Google Chrome, and let's say wait zip file. So if this is there, all right, so let's save this image, and I'll save this image on the documents and then codes, and then batch 4, and I guess this is lecture 10, API, and then SRC, then assets. And in the assets, I will save as, let's say, wait. So I saved a file in the application assets folder, which you can see from here. In the assets folder, I should have a file, assets folder, and this weight.gif is there, right? I want to use that, let us say. So here what I'll do, I'll go to this global interceptor.component.ts, and let's say that you want to, like, wherever it is deployed, you want to take that whole thing. So what I'm going to do, I'll just go to, I'll put some CSS here. All right, and then in the HTML, okay, and then on the HTML, it's pretty simple. Image if loader is loading, so it's not loader, our name is loader service, let's call it as a loader. So here we are using this loader, we are checking, we are saying that if loader, it's not coming, global private loader, global load service, yeah, so let me just check that. Oh, I need to, okay, so if I want to read that on this, let me make it public, and then okay, loader is loading, and then it should be in the assets folder overlay, and then I'm using the async pipe. I'll explain you what is async pipe later whenever we have that class. So loader is loading, async pipe class overlay. All right, and then what we would do, we would go to our main component. Our main component is, so we'll go our main component. Our main component is here. The component name is your app global interceptor. So take this app global interceptor from here and just go to app component, which is the main component. And here, just you can say app global interceptor and app global interceptor, and don't forget to register, provide HTTP interceptor, use class. What is our name? Global load interceptor service. I hope it works. So global load interceptor service, we passed it here. We are doing here, and here we'll put some delay for every call. Let us say 1000 millisecond. All right, and then in the service.ts, where I have put some delay, I'll get rid of this. All right, and also what I'm going to do in the book component, I'll make it false. All right, so now let's see that and run that, and let's see how it works. One thing, just you're able to see my Visual Studio Code, everyone, right? So one thing here in the global interceptor, I guess we don't have images folder, so just assets folder. And the name of R is weight.gif, right? Okay, so now here you are in the output. If you go here, 4200, you're able to see my browser, everyone? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now when I click on books, to show that like as soon as your API call was getting, you are not able to do anything. So I'm in the books. If I go to home, again, I'm back to books. I'm getting this weight. And then so in this way, you can use Interceptor to generate a global loader. And you can even combine that with this. So here I can go to book.component.ts and can make it true. And then if I come here and display you can have combination of both, data is loading, waiting, and like that. Keep in mind, I have put a delay on the purpose to show you if that much time it is taking to bring data. So this is what I have for today class. And if you have any question, I'll be very happy to answer. But before that, master class and lecture 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 is done. Have you done editing and deleting, everyone? I gave you assignment.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
a little bit.
Yeah, you have to complete that. Interceptor is done. Okay, this 12 and 13, these two will do on Saturday, like a longer class. So everyone should be there. And dynamic loading is done. Routing we would discuss. Angular 14 we would discuss. Routing, creating routing is done. Routing parameters are done. I'll show you a snapshot and observable approach, optional route parameters, query parameters, creating child routes. Route guard is important also, and we'll have a discussion. So we'll look into that. Okay, this class is very important, lecture 12 and 13, which we'll do on Saturday because it will take longer time and these two are related to each other, and that would be our last class. But today we have Wednesday is done, Thursday, Friday, 2 days. We have for one is for this Angular 14 and 1 day for the lecture 15. And after that, like after Saturday also, if you have any queries or anything, we can do 1, 2 extra classes as well. But maybe after a week, because from Monday to Friday, I'm in Hyderabad to give training. So maybe again on Saturday or Sunday, we can do. Like in the meantime, you can watch all the videos and everything, practice. And in 1 week, we'll have more questions, so we can cover that. But Saturday would be the good class, and I request all of you to attend that. All right, any question? Okay, so if you don't have any question, I will terminate the meeting, and tomorrow I'll send you a new meeting URL. So please check your Telegram and email both. Okay. All
Okay.
right.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.